What is up, down and sideways, you beautiful individuals? Welcome back to Liga. Eric and Mark here with you beauties to recap the finale of part one of the 2023 World Championship play-in stage behind us. We got best of threes into best of fives, and me, oh my, did these final rounds live up to the hype. It feels like every single year, the last few years at least, we're left saying, that was the best play-in stage we've had of all time. And here we are again, saying the same thing in 2023.
Yeah, and feeling confident about it once again. These best of threes really kind of ratcheted up a little bit more as you moved through with the severity of what was going to be on the, what's on the line for winning and losing these situations. And then, of course, entering those best of fives to decide who's getting that ticket to the main Swiss stage. And yes, sirree, you better bet your bottom dollar we got some good matchups to talk about.
It was the level up, the evolution for Team BDS, learning from getting reverse swept in the finals by Mad Lions. They say, why don't we try doing that on somebody? And it's the classic Adam goes for Nectin and Scion. Then he goes into the back room down 0-2 and says, enough of this. Let me finish the gods. Let me get my comfort picks, starting with the Olaf. And listen, BDS through the first two games in this series looked completely outclassed across the board.
And you'd be excused from saying that they were outclassed maybe 5-10 minutes into game three as well. The advantages, the pressure getting to them, you could see it building up for what PSG needed to close things out, get that spot into the Swiss stage until the rest of the BDS comp comes online. You get Nuke dishing out some consistent, strong damage on that Azir. You're getting that Kaisa pop-off coming through from Crowny. And yes, how can we keep forgetting about it? It is your boy, Adam, on that Olaf, making it a menace all the way through the enemy team. Quick shout-outs, though, in this game three, because it does continue on in this turnaround for BDS, is the smites coming through true from man Sheo in the jungle. I thought that this was an exceptional series from him, and especially these three games where BDS turns it around.
Yeah, and how about the mental fortitude from Sheo specifically? Because that Talia game in this series is one of the worst games we've seen out of him maybe all year. He was just, didn't matter where he was walking around on the map, he was getting caught out, he was dying, he was getting two-shot by everybody in the game. But yeah, he bounces back, and all that matters as a jungler, you can be 0-7 in a game, but you land a couple key smites, that's the only takeaway from that match.
Your friends, no one would care. No one knows what you actually did in the game other than saying, man, we secured that drag. Oh, I can't believe we secured this objective. Yeah, your jungler was true. The smites raining down from Sheo. It was fantastic rebound in that situation. And the other player I want to make sure is getting their credit for this BDS turnaround, for this reverse sweep, is Labrov down in the bottom lane alongside Crowny. Again, their superstar ADC, all the attention, sure, all those things. Labrov, the forgotten man, cast aside by Vitality, showing I don't see any other Vitality guys over here at Worlds. Labrov is out here, and he's stunting out there for BDS.
Not only leveling up away from Vitality, but this guy was scapegoated on this star-studded Vitality roster. They say, yeah, but this young guy can't do anything. Look at him now. On the world stage, MVP of those three games that they won. Despite, the Olaf game, Adam didn't have a huge impact until later in the game. We're used to him turning around 1v2s constantly. The real impact comes when he locks into Garen, because when this guy pilots Garen now, he makes him look like the most broken champion in the game.
I hate it because I get PTSD to looking back at the early days of starting League and just Garen's all over the place, spinning to win, taking Flash Ignite, of course, on that top side, all these things. Nasty work coming through. And yes, that is the game four realization, I think, from BDS of going, okay, yeah, playing into some comfort, playing into who we truly are in this game three worked out for us. Double dip on it for Adam as well in that top side. You get done in game four, and you saw really that power, that style and theme come across from BDS to set up Silver Scrapes in game five. In game five, I cannot believe we're talking about this. A Darius ban was not dialed in.
You had to see it coming.
You saw the Olaf, you saw the Garen coming up. Not only that, but you saw how those games went and the momentum and mojo. A game 5, how do you dial up the ultimate comfort? It is that Darius for Adam, and you saw it. It didn't matter the pressure, anything else. It all fades away. What comes to that forefront is those mechanics, is that skill, is that innate bloodthirst that comes through when you know how to play your champion, you know its executions. It's exactly what we saw in that Darius, that comfort. Too strong for this top laner.
And listen, this trio quadro of picks for Adam, I feel like especially in that game 5, the matchup didn't matter. He was picking Darius into whatever was coming his way, and the Gnar ends up being a pretty solid matchup for him. The writing was in the wall. I can't believe there wasn't some type of 3 bans even targeted towards Adam in that game 5 to make sure he's back on the croc or something that he doesn't look nearly as comfortable on, because, you know, game 5 you could see both teams were tentative because, I mean, their entire year is on the line. It was very slow until that 35-minute mark almost, where you have a lot of insane back and forth team fights. But this 5th game lived up to the hype, because even the final team fight, until the last 5 seconds of the fight, you're not sure who's gonna win.
Oh, but it is BDS and getting that win. It's your boy Labrov with some fancy footwork with everything going on in the team fight. And of course, it is PSG going a little bit too deep, being out of sync, out of communication with each other. Anzi going in and you know, you're supposed to be maybe just holding everybody back, all these times. It's not what you wanted to see in that final fight. And I think really when you're examining this game 5 and you talk about those nerves, you can look at a couple of these moments, a couple of these advantages that are gained by BDS and go, you know what? That should have been a whole team wipe. That should have just been a major advantage for them. But you could tell keeping it cool, keeping it collected, not wanting to take too many risks was one of those things factoring into that game 5. Again, I'm just still blown away that nobody on the PSG coaching staff either is the preparation from looking at domestically Adam and what his champion pool and where his comforts were, or from this event even. I feel like you could have come to that conclusion. The Darius was coming. It didn't even matter if you thought, oh, Darius, we got something for that cooked up, you know, whatever. Unless you got the Faker Morgana to LeBlanc situation that EDG had figured out, I don't want to see it, because you let him have that comfort that we talked about. You let the rest of the BDS team feel comfortable because they know how familiar Adam is with that champion. I don't see the advantage to giving it over.
And it's so obvious now, when Adam is the emphasis, is when BDS has looked the best over the last month at Worlds, even closing out the summer split in the LEC. We're still waiting for Crownie to level up, because it feels like Labrov has hit there. Adam, when he's on his comfort picks, are there. Still waiting for that 1v9 level Crownie to show up in this meta. And one last note on PSG. You feel so bad for Maple, because he was clearly the best mid laner in this playing stage.
Yeah, I think some unfortunate, misspells coming through at crucial times in game 3 is a certain one to look at on the Silas. I think a couple of them you'd want to, obviously get that second chance at, and then further on. But the performance, the pedigree that we saw from Maple, very much this is the Maple of old. Turning back the clock, still looking good, still looking fresh, even with that time in the TSM gulag, we're still feeling good. But his return back to PSG, it does unfortunately end in disappointment, of course.
And of course, now all the momentum for BDS carried into that Swiss stage. The other side of those play-in finals, we had the Civil War, Team Wales versus GAM, after GAM really leveled up in that Loud series, already did against R7, but you almost knew this was scripture that was written as well. As soon as you saw this was the matchup, GAM were going to look much more comfortable, and honestly, Team Wales had a very clear path that they could have won this series. It felt like they were in control outside of game 1, kind of the next 3 games, and there were just key moments time and time again in the mid game where there's sloppy positioning, either Bean J or the bot lane just getting caught out, being somewhere they have no business being, 1 or 2 picks, and the momentum goes right into GAM's pockets.
And that's one of those things that, leads into another thing to examine in this series, looking on the side of GAM, is that their early game was not necessarily anything to be impressed about or writing home that you saw, and this is so amazing, this team is going to get... You didn't really see any of that from GAM, which did create these scenarios where you did have a playing field that seemed about even or Wales controlled until the mid-game hits. And then, yes, you did happen, unfortunately, to see too many of these mistakes, costly mistakes coming through, compounding each other and adding up to where the power is certainly in the hands of these Marines. How many times was it an early game, you know, good play from a Wales team member, someone getting it done, Artemis popping off, and you're going, yes, this is it. And then only to throw it right back towards the Marines. And then from mid-game to late game onwards, it really was about how the Marines would team fight, change things in this series.
And, you know, the top side of the map, Team Wales, especially in this early game, BJ and the rest of the squad were catching out. Levi getting a little greedy in the opposition jungle multiple times. Kiaya was getting styled on by Sparta in a couple of these early games. Obviously, they end up getting the last laugh. But the biggest comfort in this all-Vietnamese matchup was definitely Slater saying, it just feels like we're back at the BCS and I'm in peak form.
Oh, it is very much like that. And it's one of those ones where you look at how, you know, the views have been at this tournament and what people are coming to the conclusions about these players. A lot of people siding with Artemis before this series, looking at the body work that he had done in this play-ins and how impressive he had been for getting this Wales team to where they were as that 1 seed. Absolutely looking at it and people forgetting that, yes, you got to go back to the domestic matchup between these two. And it is without question Slater dominated with GAM and the way that they were able to play. You saw it in this series, I think outside of obviously game 2, where Wales really is popping back and pushing back forth against GAM. You have to be going over to where Slater was in total domination in that bottom lane.
It still wasn't as dominant as that Kati Glory matchup because the mid lane went the way of GAM pretty much all 4 of these matchups. He really stepped up in a big way, which again, it's a theme from what you saw in the finals and throughout the entire VCS summer. So big credits to GAM because after that first Loud series that they lost, we were ready for a big disappointment run for them, but an absolutely incredible bounce back. I know they had an easier loser bracket run to get back against Team Wales, but they looked like a different team once they got knocked down there.
They did very much are giving us those signs at the very least, and this is a good thing for GAM historically, of course, as well, getting back to showing us that level of play that they do domestically on the international stage, getting over that hurdle to get into the Swiss stage, giving yourself a little bit more breathing room, of course, is going to be a good thing. But as we're going to talk about in a little bit, I don't know how much that breathing room is going to do for you feeling good, because these matchups ahead of us in the Swiss stage are absolutely spicy and loaded with the very best teams in the world.
Big shout outs to Mr. 2014 MVP. Mata came in to do the group draw. I've never seen when these guys come up to do these. The amount of times he was switching the bags around right before he was pulling them was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, some amazing round 1 matchups. Obviously, this totally different format for this year's Worlds. It was just Pool 1 versus Pool 4 in that first round, drawing those matchups, and then Pool 2 teams versus Pool 3 teams. The 2 play-in teams, let's start with them first, because the immediate level up for both of them. Obviously coming in as the 4 seeds. You get excited about beating Team Wales. You say Kati was just smashing Glory, and now you have to match up against Chovy and Gen G. Woo!
Oh, don't you love that? Don't you love just that little bit of a level up? Of course, and by little bit, we mean gargantuan.
Yeah.
Absolutely astronomical, going up against the back-to-back LCK champions in Gen G. Dominant superstars like Chovy, Peanut in the jungle, rising superstar Pays down in the bottom lane. You better be prepared for yourself for one heck of a showdown.
And it's an even bigger level up for BDS, despite all the momentum, all the mojo. It seems picturesque that they go, all right, you get JDG. Maybe there's a miracle avenue where BDS has been on the rift. They've already played so many games. Adam is popping off on these pocket picks. There's an upset against JDG. If you believe in infinite timelines, there might be one where BDS gets the win against JDG. There might be one.
Oh, and Nuke is holding up that one, just like Doctor Strange type of thing. This is the one that we figure it out. What does that composition look like? I got no idea, but yes, the level up, it reaches its maximum point. for BDS up against JDG. It doesn't get any scarier than this. This is the top test that you're ever going to face at this World Championship. I guess the positive look is get it out of the way right away type of thing. But man, oh man, is this going to be a different world for BDS. You're probably saying your prayers thinking that it is only one game, not a best of 3.
I mean, you're happy that you're not just straight up in their group. Yeah, like, you got to play them at least twice. But I love even Crowdy in the interview after was like, well, Ruler's the GOAT AD carry right now. And honestly, I didn't think I'd be matching up against him this year. Which, yeah, I mean, you probably thought you'd have to get to like semifinals to match up against him.
Beauty of the Swiss stage, giving us one of these ones right off the bat. It certainly is other things to look at on the BDS side, even if, you know, you're being what I will call, unfortunately, realistic and conceding that you are going to eventually lose here to whatever degree to JDG. You can still look at this as a benefit for this team in this understanding of the Swiss stage. There's obviously going to be a bunch of other losers in their first game too. They're going to be in the same seat as you. You know what? Their opponents aren't the best team in the world. You get that little bit of a close-up, a little bit of extra exposure to see just how good they are. Maybe you pick up a little thing from here or there, but you can hope the smallest of chances that that's what it is, because if you get a little bit of that magic rubbing off on BDS from going up close to JDG, that could be your ticket out of Swiss stage. It's as simple as that.
It's kind of like going to the boss in the further ahead area that's 15 levels out of your pay grade, and you smash your head against that and can't beat it. And then you go back to the starting zone where you actually are, and you're like, these guys are way easier.
This guy doesn't have any delayed attacks. He doesn't heal halfway through the fight. No way. This is easy.
Only one phase? Oh, my God.
I mean, realistically, that might how it feels playing anybody other than JDG. The onslaught of 369 in the top side, which, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about. There's anybody that's prepared for Adam's champion pool, it's 369 due to his buddy Ching Tan, a.k.a. Chinese LPL Adam, hanging out over there. As well, you're looking at just everything from this team. Mr. Knight in the mid lane, Ruler missing bottom lane, throwing a dash at Kanavi, roaming around between them all. That's the JDG matchup.
So other initial matchups, obviously there's plenty of tasty ones. The NA versus EU always jumps out at you. Cloud9 versus Mad Lions. Got the added little rivalry because it's Niski against his former squad. And we know both of these teams historically, Mad Lions are kind of the ones that get flamed for EU. Cloud9 is the team that NA usually puts their faith in.
Usually, we've seen over the last couple of years that seems to fluctuate between its level of accuracy or success. Heading into this matchup, and it's going to be careful because this is bulletin board for all the EU fans and all the Mad Lions. This had to have been the best possible matchup that you really could have hoped for if you were Cloud9. I think, you know, maybe a couple of other things maybe fall the way, sure, a different way. But right now, what you're looking at and what is in front of you, you take care of business. You show up at the level of preparedness and performance that people expect out of you and seen from you this year. You should be able to take care of business as that expected favorite. You slip up, you are underprepared, you underestimate to any type of degree. This is a Mad Lions team that people sleep on. People have not put the type of respect on just how good they are and just how tough they can be to take out at these opportunities if you're not on your A game. Cloud9 staring in the face of that right now.
And we know historically, LCS as a favorite in any international matchup hasn't bode very well for them, but especially when it's matching up against EU. If Cloud9 gets their best possible draw, poor NRG as the pool 1 seed, they draw Weibo Gaming. Luckily, at least we get a Big Dokes versus the Shy matchup. That is marquee if I've ever seen one.
Oh, I'm telling you, and the underrated matchup here is Pala Faker versus Xiaohu. Oh, baby. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I think either way you slice it up, even if you're expecting the Weibo Gaming victory in this spot, I think that energy should not be discredited, underestimated in this situation. What they showed through that playoff run in the LCS, what that final product is, if that is the product that has been taken over to Korea and refined through some solo queue training, I want to see that squad up against even a team like Weibo Gaming and see what they can handle. Yes, even a team like the 4th seed from the LPL, we're still scared of it.
Well, 4th seed of the LPL is, usually kind of in the same category as the 1st seed from the LCS, right? Like, that's the most accurate comparison you can have for LPL to LCS. The other matchup that obviously jumps off the board immediately is G2 and D+, because it doesn't matter the format. It doesn't matter the year. It doesn't matter the players. These two are inevitable to match up internationally. Another installment of Caps versus Showmaker. Now you got Yike being added to the Canyon rivalry. Deft is there. This has quickly become one of the best rivalries over the last 3-4 years now.
I love it. And especially one of my favorite things about it is just the attitude towards this rivalry. It's none of this negative, overly agitated type of stuff. It is just flat out one of these things where you understand and respect. Your opponent thinks he's the very best. He knows that he's going to have to take you down. You're going to have a fight. And that's the way it goes. And every time we get to see it through this one, and we've seen it, Showmaker looking over on the side, seeing Caps, Perks isn't there, so it doesn't hit quite the same. But I'm telling you, yikes, he's going to deliver that for you because he is going to be a major threat, major player throughout this Swiss stage. If it doesn't show up in game one, which I'm betting it does, take that one to the bank against Damwon. But I'm still saying that he's going to be a player at this event. You better believe he's going to add some flair, some excitement and his own flavor to this rivalry.
And, honestly, I think this is a good draw for G2 because you heard people saying, G2 actually has a chance, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying G2 should be favorites here. D+, yes, I get it. LCK versus LEC, but they're the 4th seed, and G2, this is an opportunity to make a statement that you're here to actually make some noise at this tournament.
And if you look at what else, what are the other options here that you're talking about for G2 and where you get an advantage? The experience flat out from Mickey in that bottom lane is going to be a factor that plays through alongside with Hansama. Those two, the creativity that they have shown this year is something that I want to be looking at with G2. And as well, don't forget about BB, the top father up there, and what he has done and how he has leveled up and grown over the course of this year. Looking at a relatively favorable matchup for him across on the side of Damwon Kia.
Yeah, top and bot. You're probably giving an edge to G2 in those individual matchups. So do not be sleeping on that top seed from the LEC. We'll break down that Swiss stage a whole lot more before it gets going. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Beautiful people, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on that flippity flip.